What marriage advice do you wish you had received? If you're having trouble with your marriage right now, download our free marriage repair handbook at hopeformymarriage.com. So, the topic of today's video is what marriage advice do you wish you had received? Carol and I have been married for 33 years. We started dating our senior year, between our junior and senior year in high school. So, we've been together about 35 years total. And we got married, and our marriage counseling, pre-marriage counseling, was pretty much just don't have sex. Yeah. So, looking back, because we were young, we got married at 18 in between our first and second semester of college, and we realized we didn't have a clue what we were jumping into. And looking back, there's a lot of things we wish somebody would have really discussed with us heading into our marriage. So, Carol, what are a couple things you wish somebody would have just talked honestly and openly with you about?
Helping me realize that we were a team. It wasn't husband against wife, wife against husband. We were a team and needed to figure out solutions to the issues that come up together.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. One of the things that was interesting in our marriage, I grew up as an only child. Carol grew up with sisters and siblings. And so, admittedly, for me, this idea of team and this idea of working together, I obviously was not good at, and I struggled with that. And it created issues in our marriage because I would make selfish decisions because I'd always made selfish decisions. I wasn't thinking about how are my actions going to affect my wife in the days to come. So that was a big one for me as well. What's another one that you wish somebody would have talked to us about?
I think one of the biggest ones, we are a couple of faith. We have both been Christians for a very long time, and we started our marriage out, as Christians, but we didn't learn how to go deeper in our faith together. And I think had we known how important that would be in the years to come, and just for issues that we faced, and just for even good times, no one really told us how to grow together as a couple, as well as growing separately on our own.
Yeah, I think that's really critical. And again, what's modeled for us, neither one of us ever saw our parents in their stress times really cope with it in a way that invited us in. So they kept their problems behind closed doors. And there's advantages, disadvantages to that. So no faulting. It just we were ill prepared in many instances. Okay, where our backs are against the wall. How do we leverage our faith? How do we pray deeper? How do we lock arms with the people God's put in our lives? All those kinds of things were not a part of the equipping heading into marriage. We were flying by the seat of our pants, and problems came quickly. I think along those lines, for me, the other big one was I really wish somebody would have spoken more with us about having a plan and worked with us to develop, in particular, a financial plan. We had no budget. We had no agreement as to who was going to do what financially. No agreement as to who was going to pay the bills, how much was going to go into savings. We just didn't have those discussions. We made a lot of immature, spur of the moment purchases that put us deep in debt. Debt was something that we had to contend with over and over again early on in our marriage because we just would make bad decisions. Nobody taught us how to really handle money, how to handle finances, how to have those conversations. So I think that's another, critical one for us. Are there any others you can think of?
I think one of the big ones that I think is important, and I didn't really see this modeled for me, is really respecting my husband and looking for his input, looking for ways that I could serve him, that talked to him. I love getting small gifts. He hates that. He doesn't like it. But I would do that because that was my language. So I guess really learning his love languages and respecting those, as that's part of who he is.
Yeah, I think that's a critical piece is learning each other's language, and I was just as guilty. Still at times struggle with that. I'm an only child. I'm an entrepreneur, and so I'm often in my own head and not thinking about the other person. What do they need? What do they need to hear? As she said, gifts are a big love language for her. The other big thing is the I love yous every day. I don't need to hear that every day. She does. And so learning about a person's love language was critical, which, by the way, we'll put a link in the description of the video for the 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. It's a great book. You ought to read it. It'll be very helpful to you in that. So anyway, just a few thoughts for you today. These are some of the things we wish somebody would have talked to us about as we headed into marriage, and we hope you find that helpful. Talk to you soon.